Hello, and welcome to the Career Services presentation, Resumes Improving Your Layout by Northern Kentucky University. Let's get started. I would like to start with this question, and I really want you to think about this. What makes a resume a good resume? While you may have your idea of what the perfect resume is, I want to assure you that there is not one perfect resume. Your resume should follow the typical layout, but it also needs to be tailored to you, and it should be effective for the specific type of position you are seeking. Your resume will look different depending on the type of position you are applying for, so it is important that you are familiar with the layout that your industry is interested in. For example, nursing resumes are going to include different information and be laid out differently than a teaching resume or an accounting resume. Finally, it is very important that you are happy with the way your resume looks. I want you to feel confident when you are turning your resume in for an application. There are two main components to your resume. You have your content, which is the information that you put on the page, and you have your layout, which is the way you put your information on the page or how it appears or looks. Today's workshop is going to be focusing on the layout of your resume. After you have created your resume, you should be able to check off all these boxes. Your resume should appeal to your specific audience. It should have a good layout, it should be easy to read, it should be an appropriate length, and it should maintain consistency in both style and formatting. Now we are going to transition into some layout and formatting suggestions for your resume. Here are a few layout basics you will need to follow. You should type your resume up on a blank, editable document and avoid using a template. When you are applying for positions online, employers will use something called an applicant tracking system that reads through your resume before sending it to the hiring manager. These applicant tracking systems have a difficult time reading through templates and may mark your resume as unreadable, which results in you getting kicked out of the hiring process before a person even gets to see your resume. So, just to be safe, I recommend typing your resume on a blank, editable document, avoiding templates altogether. The applicant tracking systems also have a difficult time reading through multiple columns, tables, text boxes, and headers and footers. You should avoid using all of these as well. Additionally, you need to balance your information across the page. Many people have all their information over on the left side of the page, which is what we call feeling left-heavy. You should put information on the right side of the page in order to balance it and make it more visually appealing. You can do this by moving your dates over to the right side of the page, by combining shorter bullet points, and by putting information on one line rather than stacking it. Finally, you need to think about the margins you will use. I recommend using either normal, which is 1 inch around, or narrow, which is 1/2 an inch around. You do not want your margins to be too narrow because you still want to have some white space around the page. Many people want their resume to stand out in a stack of resumes, so they want to make it look interesting and add some personality to it. However, you really should keep your resume simple. Most employers are looking for a neat, crisp, easy-to-read resume rather than one that is flashy. You should be able to read your resume from top to bottom and left to right. Avoid putting information in multiple columns or in text boxes across the page. Just keep it very simple. Most people should use simple black text on a white background, but people in creative fields, such as marketing, can use some color to demonstrate their design skills. You should also choose an easy-to-read font, such as Arial or Times New Roman, and a very readable size font as well, between 10 to 12 point, with your name a little larger and/or bold. Now we are going to transition into some formatting suggestions for your resume. You should use formatting to improve the readability of your resume. You need to make sure that your category headings are distinct, so it is very clear where one section ends and the next begins. You can also use formatting to have certain information stand out. If you have held a position that is very similar to the one you are applying for, you may want that job title to be underlined so the hiring manager can see it easily. If you have worked for a prestigious company, you may want to make that bold so it stands out. Whatever you choose to do, It is important that you are very intentional with these choices. Whatever formatting choices you make, you need to ensure that you use them consistently. If you underline one job title, underline all of your job titles. If you make one employer name bold, make all of your employer names bold, and so on. You should also use one font consistently throughout your whole resume. You should not use a different font for your name, a different font for the category headings, and a different font for the information inside of the categories. Instead, you should just choose one easy-to-read font to use for your entire resume. You also need to use the same style and size of bullet points. I recommend using the simple document bullet points, like the ones on this slide, rather than the fancier bullet points, such as the diamond or arrow. Now we are going to look at an example of unformatted education versus formatted education, so you can get a better understanding of the importance of formatting properly in your resume. You can see from this example that the category heading really does not stand out. All the information is running together and is in one big paragraph, which makes it harder to read. But you can see from this example that the category heading is very clear because it is all uppercase and bold. The name of the school is underlined, so that stands out. Each piece of information has its own line, which makes this much more digestible. I hope this example has given you a better understanding of the importance of formatting. You also need to think about your line spacing while creating your resume. Your resume should be single-spaced, but it can be visually appealing to add some space between different categories or informational groupings. Word does have default line spacing, but you can manually adjust that in either the Layout tab or Paragraph settings in Word. I will show you where each of those pages can be found. The Layout tab is found on the menu bar, and the arrow is pointing to this tab. The brackets are pointing out where you can add or remove space, either before or after a line. After highlighting a word or line, you can select the Format drop-down at the top of your screen. Next, you select the Paragraph settings, which is what the arrow is pointing to. Again, the brackets are pointing to where you can add or remove space, either before or after a line. Select OK when you are finished. You also have the option of adding a line across the page to create a visual break between categories. You can see the line below Optional Elements and how it creates a break or separates the category heading from the information inside of the category. While lines are acceptable, you should avoid using a border around the entire page. If you do choose to use lines, make sure you use them consistently and that they are consistent in style, color, and length. Now we are going to transition into some space-saving strategies for your resume. Your resume should be 1 to 2 pages in length. However, you do not want to have just a couple of lines over onto the second page. So, before you begin removing content from your resume, you can try some of these space-saving strategies to get back down to 1 or 2 pages. If your margins are set at normal, you can try reducing them to a narrow setting. If your font size is 12 point or larger, you can reduce it to a size 10 or 11. You can also reduce the spacing between lines, and I showed you how to do that in the Layout tab or Paragraph settings in Word. You can also combine shorter bullet points to make fewer longer bullet points. You should also utilize the width of the page by putting information on one line rather than stacking it. You should also look for lines that just have 1 or 2 words on them and think about how you could rephrase them to save space. You can also reformat your contact information, and we will look at 2 different formats that you can use. Rather than putting each piece of information on its own line, you can use one of these 2 condensed formats. Depending on how much information you are including, you can put your information on 1 or 2 lines to save space. You can also save space in the experience section of your resume. The first way is by combining similar experiences. If you have held the same job at multiple locations, you can combine them so you do not repeat your wording in your bullet point descriptions. For example, if you were a server at 3 different restaurants, you would list server one time followed by each place of employment listed in reverse chronological order. After your last place of employment is listed, you will write bullet point descriptions that apply for all 3 restaurants. The other way you can save space in your experience section is if you have held multiple positions at the same company. This can also be an effective way to show your promotions. You list the employer's name once, in this case, Kroger, and you include the entire time you have worked there, April 2019 to present. Then you will list each position in reverse chronological order with the time you held that position, as well as bullet points. Now that you have updated the layout and formatting of your resume, what should you do? You want your resume to be error-free, and so do we, so send your resume to our email, resumehelp@nku.edu, and I or any of the other staff members would be happy to provide you with feedback. I do ask that you submit your resume as a Word document because when it is sent to us as a PDF or through OneDrive, it is difficult for us to open and edit. But if it is sent as a Word document, we can provide you with good and timely feedback. Thank you, and let us know in Career Services if you have any questions.